You ready to do the thing?
Let's get it, baby.
All right, I got the mics off now, but I'm gonna turn them on as soon as the intro goes off, and then we ready to go.
What is your mind really? Nobody knows for sure. Everything is reflected through our minds. And yet it's the last place on earth the average person will turn to for help.
All I wanted to do was share the secret with the world.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Nothing new can come into your life unless you're grateful for what you already have.
One of the great errors that almost everyone makes, they're attempting to change something outside of themselves without changing what's going on inside.
It's because they've never learned to think. Now that is a fact, believe it or not.
And that, my friend, is
The strangest secret in the world.
Because I got something to say. What up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us. This thing on. This is a show, podcast about motivation, about business, and about extraordinary people. And today I have a very special guest in the studio with me. He's a former Major League Baseball pitcher. Like, come on, let's give a round of applause for that, number one. And also a 2022 inductee into the Oroville Hall of Fame. He is the executive director for PWT, People Working Together, making changes in the community, and he is also a pastor at Journey Ministries in Natomas. Everybody, please welcome to Is This Thing On, Pastor Kevin Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Carl.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. You know what? I want to say from the time that I met you, my life has changed. Look, he laughing.
I don't know how to take that.
Hey, look, for the better. You invited me to Journey Ministries, and it's been my home since we met, and I want to thank you so much for that. But let's just talk a little bit about you. So do me a favor, introduce for the audience a little bit, explain to them who you are, and then let's start diving into some of your accomplishments.
I am Kevin Brown, as you mentioned in the introduction, and born and raised in Oroville, California, about 57 miles northeast of Sacramento. Came down in the summer of '84 to play baseball at Sac City Junior College, and have made Sacramento my home ever since. And I went out and from Sac City, and I was a first round draft pick for the Atlanta Braves in 1986, and started my professional career, and ended up playing for the Mets, the Brewers, the Mariners, and the Royals in '95, and tore my rotator cuff, and so I flew back home, had surgery, started the rehab, and my shoulder just wasn't responding, and so I, you know, was approached by the vocational nurse at that particular time. She said, "Hey, Mr. Brown, it appears that someone may not want you to go back into baseball." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Someone?
Like, who was that someone?
Yeah, who's that someone, right? Because this is all I do. This is what
Yeah.
I do, from the time I grew up in Oroville throwing rocks at houses and windows, and you know what I mean? This is all I've done. And so it was a very unique time for me. And at that particular time, my mother was working. She was retired, actually, the deputy director of social services in Yolo County. She was donating time to St. John Christian School. And so she was the administrator, which I would come back and volunteer and all that. So it was a landing spot for me to go down and volunteer while I was trying to figure out the next move in life for myself. And something unique started happening, man. I started having these little visions, me standing at these lectrums and speaking. And I'm like, hey, it got so intense. And so, it was like a perpetual dream. And so God was doing some things that I didn't know about. And he snuck up on me. And at the particular time, I just wanted to change my life, living the major league life. I had cultivated many behaviors that were counterproductive. And I was in a very unique space in my life, and I didn't know what to do. And so somehow in the midst of that, I started volunteering at the school, started teaching kindergarten
Wow.
of all things. And the next thing you know, I'm going to Bethany Bible College to get my degree. And, next thing you know, I'm preaching March 10th, 1996. I did my first sermon. And
Nice.
so I'm coming up on yet again another anniversary memorialize that moment. And so it's been a unique journey for us after baseball. Like I said, I don't know how many different times, Carl, I had to reinvent myself. Even after I started pastoring, been a workers' comp adjuster. I have a self-insured professional license. I've been an HR coordinator. I've been uh, I've been a fashion designer. I've owned a hair company, importing hair from India, and but I wouldn't take anything for the journey.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Nice.
take anything from the journey. Married, met my wife back in '95, the last year of baseball for myself.
Nice.
And she and I were acquainted in '96. We got married 8 months after, reconnecting. We
I'm gonna
have
give you a
two.
round of applause for that one, right?
Yeah, got to give it up.
Shout out to Cindy Brown too. Wonderful, wonderful woman.
Yeah, 25 wonderful years. We have 2 boys and 4 lovely grandchildren. And so, life is phenomenal for us in that, we're able to help people because
Yes.
it comes down to, I think it's really the roots that I grew up with in a Orville community. It was more about communal living.
Yeah.
And so I'm very relationship oriented, meaning that grandmother would say it like this. He says, son, you've never met a stranger. And, and so I start to own that now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm a very energetic, very extroverted person.
Yeah, straight people person. So let me ask you this. Life is good now, but that journey. So let's take it back, I guess, when you were a kid. Let's talk about the journey because I love the journey. I love the mindset that it takes to achieve some of the things that you've achieved. And obviously, things didn't work out in the major leagues, or it did work out, but then you had to readjust yourself then you had to go to something else. So let's talk about the journey leading up to MLB. What was the mindset that you had when starting from when you were a kid or when you thought this was something that you actually wanted to do?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I always knew I was going to play baseball.
Mm.
And I'm a 3-sport athlete, and I was exceptional in all those sports.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, baseball, I knew. As a matter of fact, in our 8th grade yearbook, Steve Kanoy reminded me that I wrote in his yearbook, "Hey, Steve, congratulations on graduating 8th grade. We'll still be friends even when I'm in the major leagues making XYZ." And so I already knew, I've always known. And it's something that I can't tell you what day it happened, but it's just something that I've always known in spite of injuries that I had in high school. Some of the disappointments that I had along the way,
Mm-hmm.
I never lost sight of I'm going to be a baseball player.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. My mother and father got divorced in 1st grade. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not like, I had a dual household with all those supports, but my single mother, raised 3 successful kids. My brother, he's a tenured professor at Columbia. He went to Yale. My sister worked for over 20 years for a law firm. She's now working in a space over at Consumers College, and she loves her job. And so we didn't have, the Leave It to Beaver type, Huxtable, Bill Cosby type growing up. But what we did have was community.
Yes, yes.
And so when my father and mother divorced, I had uncles, I had cousins, I had, the dude over there, hey, youngster, let me spit this game to you.
Yep.
Eat your little candy, drink your bottle of pop. Some of those little truisms, but it was that communal element that we were supported, and we didn't know that what we were lacking.
Yeah.
And so I took that, and as an active ingredient that helped me for uh, the journey to come as it relates to baseball. I always could pitch. I always could hit and do those things. And
Mhm.
so even when I got to Sac City, I got drafted twice my freshman year, and I didn't sign.
Wow.
And because, I'm a country kid. I don't know nothing about
Yeah.
the business side of baseball. And so when I actually did sign and started my minor league career and things of this nature, started training and doing the various different things, there were still elements of me that I didn't fully give all my focus, because
Mm.
I like the extracurricular activities.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I've thrown, and I'm not celebrating it, but I've thrown a couple no hitters when I was intoxicated, right?
Yeah.
And so to have that type of gift, in spite of, I took that mindset still that I can still do this. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that prematurely ended my major league career was my inability to manage my vices.
Yeah.
Those vices, those mechanisms of coping. I started drinking at a very young age, around 6th grade.
Wow.
Started smoking marijuana. We were smoking hash back in those days.
Yeah.
And so I was doing drugs at a very young age into my, high school adult, I just continued to progressively add more experimental drugs.
Yeah.
Right. And so as I kind of take a pause and reflect, I've been working on a sermon called The View from the End Zone. You look at the territory that you traveled, the terrain,
Mhm.
the offsides, the fumbles, and all the mishaps and all these things in life. And I can say today that I'm exactly where my choices have led me,
Mm.
good, bad, or indifferent. When I was able to do that, I didn't have to be mad at the general manager anymore. I didn't have to be mad at this guy and this guy, because ultimately I had power of choice.
Yeah.
And I could have controlled the things that I could have controlled by making better decisions.
Yeah.
And so I tell anyone today that is pursuing a life, that life in itself, is going to have some ups and downs. I've embraced those things, but what I'm learning and have learned is that we cannot, if we don't have actions associated to what we say we want, then ultimately we don't really want what we say we do.
Mm. Yeah.
When I said I want Major League Baseball, okay, did I do the things necessary to, maintain that, or to say that this is my sole focus? I want to eliminate any potential barrier that would stop me from pursuing my goal. Do you think that those intoxicants that I was putting in my body were adding value to my stated goal? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
In spite of those things, I still got there.
Yeah.
But I didn't fully experience it all because of my lack of discipline.
Mm. It's funny. You say you got your sermon talking about you are exactly where your choices led you. So I was actually working on something here recently too, and it's called I don't have a name for it, but it's about how you spend your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we spend time pretty much every day, all day, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. We can't buy time, but we do have receipts from what we spent our time on, right?
Right.
So when you just said that, I was like, okay, yeah, because if you think about it, we are spending time, right? And depending on what we're spending our time on, our receipts are going to be exactly what our results are going to show here in the physical plane, right? Some people spend their time in bad relationships. Some people spend their time on gambling. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, yes, you are going to be where your choices have led you to. Whether you want to believe it or not, most people really have a problem grasping that, because we want to just blame everyone.
Blame the system.
Yeah.
In spite of, you take baseball has been an exclusive club.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jackie Robinson and others that paved the way for the likes of me, I didn't, number one, value what they went through.
Yeah.
Because their experience was different than my experience.
Mm-hmm.
They were the trailblazers. They were the ones that took the racial threats and all these things to create an opportunity for me that I basically get screwed away because I didn't place any value
Yeah.
on what they went through and understand the magnitude and the gravity and the importance of me continually carrying that torch.
Yeah.
And because of my lack of gratitude and appreciation, right? I think that it oftentimes reminds me when I see people that don't vote. Oh, because they just going to make the same old decision, this and that. But here's the deal: people die. People died. We're coming up on the celebration of Selma, right? And to cross a bridge, these people are barbarically killed.
Yeah.
And we have the audacity not to vote.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we want things to change, but if we don't aggregate and exercise a vote with a level of specificity, we're going to continually get what we've gotten. We are not supposed to be victims. Yes, this system was set up with predetermined outcomes that allowed one particular class of people to have all the spoils, and then the majority at the time were to, you know, fight over the little kibbles and bits. When you look at the housing, when you look at any institution, was all the institutions that govern our society, they weren't designed for people that look like us.
That's true.
That's why we in the church, when you look at the history of the church, the AME church that gave birth to education, you know, schools and things of this nature, businesses were birthed out of the church. But now the church is not even relevant. Right? The church is not even relevant because of, number one, the gatekeepers. As the pastors, we're supposed to be the spiritual compass, the moral compass. But we have compromised in so many areas that the church now is more of an activity. It's a social activity. It's a networking place to be. It doesn't focus on transformation and impactfully, you know, eradicating, you know, these wrongs. Where was the church when the lady was able to pontificate and get prayer out of school? Now you can't even go to school. I'm scared when my grandkids go to school. Well, hey, do you guys got armed teachers up there? Because this thing is a hot mess.
Yeah.
You know, so those are some of my views from the end zone that were birthed out of, number one, taking ownership for my choices. Today, I spend time that I can't get back. And so when I spend time in the studio with you, this is time that we can't get back. Because everyone has a certain amount of time. And we have shelf life. And so when you talk about those receipts, when I reconcile my receipts, I want to make certain that as I have been a better steward over time, that the efficacy, my actions with the allotted time are designed to help me live out my God intended purpose. Right. So I'm trying to be a better steward. I'm trying to educate younger people, use my own personal mishaps in life. I don't listen. You know, I lived that falsified life, right? To where I wanted to look and emulate what society said was success, not just on the major league side, but even early on in my ministry life, right? Because that's what it looks like. Well, you know what? I don't need to have an S on my chest because the last time I checked, when I go home, I don't go up into the pearly gates. I go back to the asphalt and I drive home and I'm human, right? Not saying being human that I have an excuse, because according to 1 John around the 2nd chapter, he says, little children, I write that you sin not. That's the expectation. That's the standard. But if you do, you have, right? And so I don't succumb to nominal living in any facet of my life. And so I'm just saying that I want to inspire and motivate and challenge people to pursue the best version of themselves. They owe it to themselves.
100%. So I'm gonna go back to something that you said before even pursuing the major league career, before you even knew you were pursuing it, you knew you were going to be there anyway, right? And that's one of the most powerful things that I try to teach people, is that the knowing and the, I guess what you want to call it, the expectancy, right? You probably didn't have anything other than expecting to go to the major leagues, right? When you were a kid. And that expectancy is just so powerful. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I guess after the major league career, like, how was the mindset then? Because you expected to go to the major league, and then what happened in the major league happened. But then what was the mindset like when you weren't able to pitch no more? Like, how did that change? Because I know that had to be
Deep depression.
yeah.
Went through I liken it to Elijah in the chapter 1 Kings 18, when he had this, this event where he was victorious, but he got some news that because of his victory that Jezebel wanted to kill him. So he takes off running, and he's like, woe is me, I'm the only one. When baseball ended for me so abruptly, right? And then the interesting thing about baseball is that in 1994, I was out of baseball. I really was bad in my addiction, right? I really got hooked on cocaine when I was over in Puerto Rico. I used to go every winter.
Wow.
And so it got so bad in 94. I had some elbow issues. And so I sat out of all of 94 and went through this dark period in life.
Yeah.
And that's when in that darkness, that light was shown in my life. And that's when I had this encounter with Christ. And so I signed a contract to go back into baseball in 95. I'm clean, I'm sober, I'm not fornicating. I'm like, hey man, I'm due. Dude, my health is back, my fastball's back. Then in May of 95, during the season, I tore my rotator cuff. I'm like, hey, God, what's going on here? I'm finally doing the list of things, right? And I was naive, thinking because I've attached myself to Christ, that I'm not going to have any adversity.
Yeah.
And so, as you asked the question, what was it like after 94, dark, dark, dark? Christ, it becomes light.
Yeah.
Now baseball is gone. Now I'm confused again.
Yeah.
Right now I'm in this downward spiral. But here's the difference. That's where the Christian school, St. John Christian School, was my testing ground.
Yeah.
And so in the midst of this adversity, I can't go back to baseball. My arm tore up.
Yeah.
God somehow got me in St. John Christian School as a volunteer, then kindergarten teacher. And that was, he isolated me so that he could insulate me. And he's put me around other people of faith that helped me negotiate the adversities that I was experiencing. But it also gave me a different lens to the Christian perspective, because oftentimes we are under the impression that now I go to church, only good things will happen to me.
That's when the attacks start happening.
Amen. See, when I was out there buck wild, working for the devil, go turn them up.
Yep.
Dope man want to give me free dope, hey man, let me love. Hey, I'm trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? And so it's a process, Carl. I mean, it was a dark period. And even from a vocational standpoint, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I come from a history and family of educators. Right. And so it was kind of like baseball. God just navigated me on this escalator. And the next thing you know, I'm preaching. I'm like, I'm doing these various different things, and doors open and this and that and this and that. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. And I just kept embracing it. And so those were the things that were essential for me on the transition from baseball. The first situation happened in 94. I'm out of baseball because of my drug addiction, and I'm in deep depression, and I'm living with my mother. I'm a grown man. How do you go from the penthouse to the outhouse?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And I had that moment where, like the prodigal in Luke chapter 15, when he came to himself, which suggested I wasn't myself. The altered version of myself with these pharmaceutical drugs and dope, right, had altered my brain. And so when I got awakened, right, and saw myself, I had to take ownership.
Yep.
I didn't like what I saw.
Yeah.
So when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you're gonna do something.
Yep. That's interesting because there was a book that I was reading. I can't remember the actual book that I was reading, but it says that a man will go through something to introduce him to the real him. And usually that's some sort of a heartbreak, some sort of a failure, some sort of a catastrophe that happens in your life. Could be the loss of a loved one or whatever the case may be. And I remember going through something similar to what you're explaining when I had my divorce. And it was deep, it was dark, it was just a period that introduced me to me when I realized, like, okay, I'm here. I know what my choices have led me here. I could have been doing a lot better up until this point, but now it's time to start turning that tide. And I remember just being really depressed. And a good friend of mine, he's actually on the chat right here. He just told me, man, believe in God, man. God's gonna get you through this. You know what I mean? But then up until that point, I wanted to have fun. You know what I mean? I wanted to party. I wanted to drink. I wanted to do all that. When I was in the thing that I can go back to now and that I'm proud of is that when I was going through that, I didn't pick up any new addictions. I did start smoking cigarettes though.
Right.
Since then I've quit. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke nothing. I told myself that in order for me to get through this and be able to, I guess, survive and then thrive, I had to make sure that I felt every bit of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I made that choice. What was your mindset similar to that? Did you pick up anything else, during that time, or was it just you wanted to feel it?
I wanted to feel it. Well, put it like this: when I had that moment of clarity, it was December of 1994. I know when it was. I had just come back from the dope man's house, and I remember driving to the dope man's house, and I was telling myself, I don't really want to smoke no more dope.
Yeah.
And I was crying, but I'm still going to get the dope because what people fail to realize about addiction is more about a person becoming and adopting something as normal that's abnormal. And so as I medicated myself through the various parts of my life from a young age, it was learned behavior.
Yeah.
And so with cell adaptation and all this stuff, so it's normal. So in order to feel normal, I got to use.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though inwardly I don't want to do it, my flesh is still. And so I remember coming home that night and I'm getting high and I start to have this conflict. And I knew that if I didn't come to Jesus, I was going to die, not just the physical death, but a spiritual death. And it scared me sober.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandmother saying, if you ever need help, just call Jesus. And that's all I did. And so I didn't pick up any more addictions. Matter of fact, I was fasting and praying and doing all these things, and he eradicated all that stuff. And so I wanted to make certain that people understand that, see, when I look at this, Carl, we have been so programmed to medicate ourselves, even from our cartoons. Underdog. What did Underdog do to fly? Took the little pill.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? They tried
Popeye
it.
had to have a little extra, little something.
Right. And so there's this programming that's been going on all this time that we don't even recognize that becomes, normal for us. And so, I look at our journey. I look at those moments, how significant it was for us. I had a good friend when I went back into baseball in 95. I'm clean. I'm sober. I'm a young Christian. He and I had been friends since 1986, since I signed with the Braves. And he had signed with the Royals 95, and he was a devout believer. He helped me because it's not like I didn't, okay, I'm a new believer. Hey, guys, we're going to go over here, because I know me.
Yep.
And so I had to make some hard choices for the new path that I was going. It's not that I wasn't tempted.
Yeah.
Right. Because,
temptation is everywhere at that point.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back, but I thank God that I had, a Barnabas that supported me, that encouraged me along the way, because that was, I tell him all the time. I said, Gary, hey, dude, this pastorship is all because you supported me. You kept me. right?
Yeah.
Way back when, right? And so I thank you for that. I'm completely indebted to him. And so God has always put people in my life that, you know, have helped me along the way in some shape, form, or capacity. And so I'm very humbled. I'm very grateful for that. That's one of the reasons we gave birth to people working together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And because, it is about a level of interdependence. It is about, working with one another, right? Because I get supercharged for seeing other people win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For sure. For sure. So let's take a little break real quick. And then when we come back, I want to talk about the other side of the Major League Baseball. Let's talk about a little bit about the people working together at PWT. Let's talk a little bit about Journey Ministries and then what you got actually going on. What you actually doing for the community, because I think you're doing a wonderful job doing things out here in the community. So let's take a little bit of break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about that. Is that cool?
Cool.
Let's do it. What's going on outside of you is nothing compared to what's going on inside of you. You have something inside of you so great and so powerful, there really is no limit to what you're capable of, and there is no limit to the things you can accomplish. But you have to be willing to take those first steps. Just like when you're a baby learning to walk, you failed your way into success with no fear of judgment, no fear of criticism, and no fear of failure itself. When you fail, what did you do? You got back up, and you fell again, and you got back up. And each time you fell, you got one step closer to the goal, which was being able to walk. And it didn't matter how you got there. You started off not being able to lift your head, but you did. You got stronger. You learned to crawl. You learned to stand and walk, and then eventually learn to ride a bike. We didn't go through all this as children to become adults and stop using the special gifts that God gave us at birth. Come on, think about it. There were a whole lot of other competitors trying to get here at the same time as you, and you won. You're a winner. You're 1 in 400 trillion. You have a better chance of winning the lottery 5 times than you are being born on this earth. Yes, you are special. You need to wake up the giant within and go get it. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you don't have any money. It doesn't matter if you've been beaten down. It doesn't matter if you're depressed. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. The only thing that matters is what you're doing now and what you're going to be doing from this point forward. You can have the health. You can have the love. You can have the wealth. You can have the cars. You can be happy. You can be successful. And you can be free. You can have anything in this world. And no one is going to give it to us. We have to take it. And it starts by taking the first step, which is making the decision to change it all. So you now have to ask yourself the question, have you had enough yet? All right. Welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed that little video right there, sponsored by the book, The Secret of Thinking and Growing Rich. If you guys are just now joining, we're having a wonderful conversation with Kevin Brown, former major leaguer, 2022 inductee into the Oroville Hall of Fame, executive director of PWT, or People Working Together, and also pastor at Journey Ministries here in North Sacramento. And we're having a wonderful conversation, just kind of going over some of the things that, I guess, some of the mindset, because we're big on mindset. And I really want to just shed a little bit of light on the mindset that it takes to achieve that type of success that you achieved, not only succeeding, but there's also some, what people may consider a failure within some of that as well. Before we get to the stuff that you're doing now, let's talk about a little bit about some of the failure. How would you describe that failure, and how would you describe the way you actually overcame that failure? Because I want to say that me going through what I was going through, I didn't actually look at it as a failure at the time. I can look at it now and say, yeah, it could have been a failure or whatever, but I just kept going. I never stopped. I just kept going. Let's talk a little bit about that part. And then was there a time where you just wanted to just give up?
Yeah, I did contemplate suicide in 94 in that dark space.
Mhm.
And, it was a fleeting thought on numerous occasions because all I had known was baseball.
Yeah.
In baseball in 94, the space that I was in was a distant memory. And it didn't seem like I would be able to get back to it.
Yeah.
And when I, had that moment that I referenced earlier in the earlier segment about December of 94 and having that moment of clarity, even after I had, used some dope,
Mhm.
that was the illuminating factor for me, right? That showed me that I had life. When you talk about failure, you can only fail if you quit.
That's
You
true.
just stop. And so I had, you know, other people praying for me, I'm certain, or whatever it was, but there was something within me that number one wouldn't let me take my life. And secondly, that resuscitated me and compelled me to take the knocks and disappointments of life
Mhm.
and keep moving.
Yeah.
And so the mindset was, I wouldn't say that it was always positive because you hit those ebbs and flows. And I think it was very, if I were to evaluate it from an introspective standpoint, it casts light on my frailties and things of this nature. And it introduced me to myself.
Mm.
And when I met myself, it wasn't the self that I had grown and was developed to be, so to speak, as a kid. I was a different person and I didn't like who I had become.
Mhm.
And I needed to change that, but I didn't necessarily have the power, first and foremost, to uh, separate myself from my addictions
Mm.
and other behaviors that were, stinking thinking, other behaviors that were counterproductive. And so outside of myself, I felt this pull. And later, obviously I believe it was the Christ bringing me out. And so that started changing my mindset in a sense of that I can be somebody. I can recapture, that guy that is not arrogant, that's not uh a superior mindset. I used to think that I was better than other folk.
Mm.
Right. And you adopt this mind. And I'm thinking I wasn't raised like that. But you go through this. Now I'm a major league and my baseball cards and all this stuff. And I'm better than other folks that look like me. I took on a mindset, right, that was very ugly. And so that mindset was horrible. And so when it started going through the churning process of the transition of the adversity, no more baseball, the dark spirit, the dark periods rather. And then coming on the other side, I started getting a new mind. And it started reminding me of Romans 12:1 and 2, when it says, "Brethren, I beseech you by the mercies of God that you present yourself a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind."
Mm.
I am a big Matrix fan.
Yeah.
Love Neo.
Yeah.
And I've always known that I've been destined to do something. And it's an intuitive knowledge. And you can say what you want to say, but I know.
Yeah.
And as I look at Neo and the Matrix, I look at all the construct that we call society and the programming and how they use commercials and how they use music to elicit responses and cultivate all these things.
Mhm.
I had to unplug from the Matrix and have a different mindset.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to say that we need to get our people. we're falling for bananas in tailpipes, right? Because let me say it like this: slavery, lynching, all those things are illegal now, but we're still we're in a worse state than we've ever been.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the problem?
Yeah.
It's our mindset.
Yep.
Yeah, there are some institutions and all that stuff, but it's still our mindset.
Yep.
You know, I heard a story the other day about how they train baby elephants, and it was mind-boggling. They said, hey, when the elephant is young, we strap a chain around the neck, tied to a big old pillar, and the elephant can't get away, and the elephant starts to learn behavior. And then as that elephant becomes an adult, we put a rope around that elephant's leg and tie it to a chair, and the elephant won't move.
Yep.
That's where I find we are, because we still fight in our own community.
We the elephant tied to the chair.
We're the elephant tied to the chair.
And there's freedom that can be right then and there, and we just won't take it.
Correct.
And that's because we're being programmed every single way.
Yeah.
Every time we turn on the TV, every time we listen to music, every time we do anything, we're being programmed to be that elephant tied to the chair. And all we really got to do is make a decision that that's not going to be us anymore. Understand that we're putting a cap on our abilities, right? Because the elephant literally could flip over a car with very little to no effort, right?
Correct.
And you think about how powerful an elephant is, and then you think about how powerful we are as human beings and the cap that's put on us, right? So it's like being just being in a water bottle, and you just got a bunch of water just going in there, and then you got the cap on there. I don't know how you feel in the water bottle. It's probably a bad analogy, but either way it goes, right? The cap is on there, so it's only gonna get more and more water in there until it actually explodes, or whatever the case may be. And who knows what the explosion is going to be. But what I'm trying to say is there is a way for you to, I guess, break away from that chair. And really, it just have to know, just look at that, your circumstances compared to what you have as an ability as a human being, and then understand you can have more. You can do
you can
more,
have
be
more. Well, you know, Carl, it's interesting you say that, because, you know, there's a passage of scripture that says, be not entangled again. There's also scripture that says, we're the head, not the tail. And years ago, you know, I started looking in the nonprofit sector and doing some work in communities. We gave birth to an organization called PWT that was initially pastors working together. I was pastoring Mount Sinai at the particular time, and this is where, you know, Black infant mortality was, you know, at epic highs and things of this nature. And so somehow I found myself doing a collaboration with California Black Health Network and First Five that funded the program that now is known as Black Child Legacy.
Wow.
And I aggregated some of the churches. It was 51 of the Black African American churches in Sacramento. We established a roadmap of interests or concerns of our constituents: Black infant mortality, workforce solution, justice involved. These were the top three that we were going to come against, and we took action accordingly. Proposition 47, all these churches mobilized. The next thing you know, we, you know, passed that in Sacramento. That was, you know, low-level felonies. People will be, you know, released from prison. But while we were at Mount Sinai, it became very evident to me that we needed to unplug from the system, because it was the system itself that was oppressive. And so we needed to find a solution to an alternative to the system that could work simultaneously in a way and manner that would champion the underdogs.
Yeah.
And so pastors working together turned into people working together. And we did this from a workforce solution. My wife and myself actually started, we cultivated a relationship with the Sacramento Building Trades when Dennis Canavari was the business manager, executive director of the Sacramento Building Trades. And this was around the time of the Golden One Arena.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, we had the multi-craft curriculum, MC3, pre-apprenticeship, and my wife and I were, you know, training people, and, you know, we weren't getting any dollars from it. We were using our, because that's just, you know, we want to help people.
Yeah.
And so we did the media day at Mount Sinai over there in Glen Elder Flats, had all the dog and pony, the cane, all that stuff. And so as we started outreaching and getting people on these jobs, I realized that construction wasn't for everyone. And so we repackaged, retooled the workforce solution and things of that nature. And next thing you know, we're in partnership with the building trades, helping them facilitate the project labor agreements around the Sacramento surrounding area, all the projects, whether it be with the city of Sacramento, Department of General Services, UC Davis or Kaiser. You see, they have specialty groups that they want to employ. And so we, people working together, we provide that construction service in a way, and then we connect folk and get them going. We get your tools. So there's no charge to our students in the communities from the 11 impoverished zip codes of Sacramento and things of this nature. And so, it's really about trying to change the social and economic trajectory of Black America.
Yeah.
And I do it unapologetically. See, and and I say that, Carl, I say that it's not that I don't have affinity for other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
But my ethnic group, when I look at all the ethnic groups from a competition standpoint, from a livability standpoint, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And so all I'm saying is that if it was the Asian Pacific Islanders, I would be gang on, let's go do something. Let's make it even. Let's create equity.
Yeah.
Right. You see all this stuff about diversity, inclusion, equity, inclusion, those are buzzwords. I'm more about action orientation. And so I'm now, at the precipice of really creating opportunity with employers and having relationship to say, hey, let us help you if you want to bring other folks in. We have inventory, not just in construction, but computer information technology, other emerging markets, right?
Yeah.
Because construction is not for everyone.
That's correct. That's correct. I like that. And you're really making a difference out here too. So what's the vision for PWT, right? So you guys are where you are now, right? And I can see the thing getting bigger and bigger. Me and you have conversations about it. What's the overall, plan for PWT when it comes to this community here in Sacramento?
That's a very, very courageous question, Mr. Carl. You want me to give up some intellectual property?
You don't got to go that deep. But if it was just like a outline, so to speak, or just
PWT wants to continuously look within itself to meet its own business needs. PWT strategically aligns itself with individuals and organizations of like-mindedness to help us facilitate our stated goal. Our mission says all humanity has redemptive value. And so we provide a whole person care program that has a workforce solution. PWT also does sober house living. We've been doing reentry services since 2014.
Nice.
And so we have strong, bona fide, credible relationships with probation, also with reentry court. I sit on the reentry court continuum, and CDCR, and so this is who we are.
Yeah.
And so when you ask the question, where do I see PWT going? We will continue to emerge as a community resource development center that is able to draw and attract the least of them and to provide holistic and whole person care that has workforce solutions. So our programming is around the spiritual need, the social need, the economic need, the emotional need, and the physical need of an individual.
Yes, sir.
And so that is beyond construction. See, we are just saying that our program and our curriculum, that we have an extensive soft skill library, and it's not about curriculum, because ultimately whoever facilitates. When you're working with people, people fail to realize that they think, well, if I get that book and go and speak in front of these people, then I'm going to get XYZ.
Yeah.
But people have to trust you
Yep.
before they want to listen. And so that's just us. We are a community development center and want to help the underserved or under-resourced communities level the playing field.
There you go.
That's why we work with UC Davis, Aggie Square, right? They have the AIM initiative trying to create equity throughout their community and stuff like that. And so we want to, be that first call. When you want some real solutions, call PWT.
There you go. There you go. So speaking about PWT, I know you guys got something coming up this month, right?
Yes, sir. March 17th, we are going to turn up. We are having a trade. It's called Taking It to the Streets. And taking it to the streets is in response to the underserved communities that wanted and had aspiration for construction, but they didn't know and said, we don't have access and this and that. And so I got vision about a year and a half ago to aggregate all of our 32 unions and many of their contractors, and we bring equipment. We go into the impoverished communities and zip codes with a level of intent.
Yes.
And creating hands-on, but all the employers that come to those sites have hiring needs of the individuals in that demographic.
Wow.
And so I don't do dog and pony job fairs.
Yeah.
I want people, because I value people's time.
Yep.
Right? Time that they won't get back.
Time that they spend.
Yep.
Yep.
So these contractors, these employers, according to project labor agreements that they have signed, they're going to hire 20%, 25%, whatever contract it is that come from these zip codes.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so March 17th at the Cerner Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., it is going to be a St. Patrick's Day trade day party.
Nice.
Free food.
There you go.
Come on, somebody. We're gonna have some beat out there. I'm gonna do the little wobble, I'm gonna do a little something, but we're gonna have a good time. We got we're doing it in collaboration. Obviously the building trades is the drawing attraction is that organization. We're just outreaching and doing the things for them, but we're doing it also with Sac Unified School District. And so it's going to be tons of people there. It's going to be lots of fun. And did I say that we're going to have free food?
Free food. Everybody love free food.
Free food on a Friday, 10 to 2. Come on, somebody.
Yes, sir. And we'll definitely make sure everybody gets that information as well. I'll pin it in the comments. And also, if you check my Facebook page, we'll also put that there. So let's talk about Journey Ministries, because we covered the MLB. We covered PWT. Let's talk a little bit about Journey Ministries out there in North Sac off of Northgate.
Journey Ministries. Let me tell you about this. So, I pastored a church, Mount Sinai in Glen Elder Flats, for basically 13 years. And I knew within me that God wanted a multicultural church. Because, my exposure growing up in Orville, my best friends don't look like me, people are, and so I just felt boxed in at Mount Sinai. And I've never been one to go and church hop. That they need a pastor. So I got a phone call from a very dear friend of mine. He says, "Hey, I need you to come out to Liberty Towers and meet this guy." And blah, blah, blah. And I go out and have a conversation. And so we do this co-pastorship for 18 months. And it was an exposure. It was a great experience. It was comparable to a vision that God had me write on the board that's still in my garage today. That's how old the dry ink is. It won't even erase. And it was a vision of 10 acres. With a building where it was going to be a multi-use building first. And because I was very connected to AAU at the time, Spirit Got Game. They were part of our membership.
Nice.
And so we were going to use that to run tournaments and things of that nature while we were able to build other structures. Using this to draw on the track, we were going to bring in other AAU sports, but I then was going to build a transitional house for the older aging members, because typically what happens when members get old and they stop driving, they stop coming to church if they don't get rides. And so I figured if we had this ability to have housing on the same campus, that would keep them engaged. It would help them. They could come hang out with the kids, volunteer. It would still infuse a level of life and vitality.
Yeah.
And so when I went out to have this conversation at Liberty Towers, they had 10 acres. I said, oh God, this is it. This is my landing spot, but it eventually wasn't.
Yeah.
And so that was a unique transition, because I really thought that this was it. Here's 10 acres, blah, blah, blah. And it was just a different philosophy of membership, philosophy of ministry between myself and the co-pastor, and we'll leave it there. I then resigned out there, retired. I'm gone. I don't know what I'm going to do. Go back home. Coaching high school baseball at the time, and don't know what I'm going to do. And it was a moment where my wife's like, what you going to do? You got all these people waiting for us to plant a church. I'm like, look, I don't feel like doing church right now. I'm burned out. I just went through,
Yeah.
And so September 17, 2017, we planted a church at Heron Elementary School in Natomas. And oh my gosh, I was like, oh my God, look at all these people, we were having church out of a trailer, matter of fact, Bernie sold us our trailer. Bernie's, at Auburn Trailers on there, part of our church now.
Yeah.
It's just funny how things happen, but it was something that I wasn't wanting to do, but I thank God that, I had a wife that pushed me.
Yeah.
When I didn't feel like being pushed. And Journey Ministry is a compilation of who we are, meaning that, growing up in church, my grandfather was a pastor in Oro Vista Baptist Church. And, I came down to this church at St. John, then I did youth ministry, youth pastor for Pastor Bernardo of Macedonia. And so you go through this process of taking others people version of what church ought to be, opposed to how God speaks to you and what church needs to look like. And so Journey is really a combination of all those experiences that God has given birth to, that all humanity has redemptive value. Here's the standard. I'm not going to eyebrow you when I preach. I'm going to give it to you in 25 minutes and I'm gone.
Yep.
And it's really about presenting a divine truth with a view to persuasion, realizing that Pastor Kevin Brown can't hit you with a magic wand and make you embrace Christ, right? And whatever. And so it's a very, hey, you got a vision? Well, come on, go do it. I'll support you, right? And, it is what it is. And so I love the freedom and the liquidity elements of Journey, because I'm a very extroverted, passionate, energetic, whatever, but the standard is Christ. And I'm always going to point back to what the standard says. And even though I realize, and I have no problem sharing, that Pastor be messing this thing up too, right? I ain't going to try to be the spiritual ass and say I'm all that, but I'm not going to settle for living below the stated goal.
There you go.
So there's a level of conviction associated with my transparency, but the standard would never change. And so Journey is near and dear to us. We're growing. We're looking at doing different things, and but Journey and PWT are one of the same.
Yeah.
They're one of the same, and just because you know, you know, allegedly church and state need to be separate, that's a myth, because according to the Bible, right, when you read the book of Nehemiah, when Nehemiah wanted to go do something back at his homeland, he went to King Xerxes, who's the state. He gave him a written letter to let him go do what he needed to do, and provided the resources to accomplish it. So, again, the politics, I'm not going to get involved in all that stuff, but yeah, there is a level to where we do need to assert ourselves, and so Journey Ministries, again, Carl, is a place to where, we're looking at doing things different. We want to draw and attract a younger audience, right? We want to resonate with the younger audience, right? Because the these and thous, we can deliver and present the word in a way that's relevant to our young people, that challenges the status quo, that challenges the mindset, because it's really about mindset and really, speaking to that moment. I'm certain that when I talk to the young people, when they're in the audience, like my grandson, he's a teenager. He like girls. Well, yeah, okay, dude. I know you going through that thing, nose wide open. And I know when Paw was going through, hey, look, I made some mistakes. I was fornicating. You don't got to do that. I was drinking. Hey, it ain't okay.
Yeah.
I wish I had did it the way God wanted to do it, right? And I ain't got no problem getting at our young people that way.
Yeah.
Because see, we sit up in churches and act like we all that in a bag of chips, and like a mausoleum, pretty on the outside, but full of dead people's bones. And so we have to speak to the kids and not just say that it's okay and justify bad behavior that's not consistent with the standard. And well, you was young. Yeah, I was young and I was dumb, right? And I wish to God today that I would honor the word where it said, children, serve the Lord in the days of your youth, so it'll be good with you. I wish somebody was getting in me then like that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's Journey.
I tell you what, man, ever since I've been to Journey, again, like I said, it changed everything for me. It was something that I was not searching for, but something that I know I needed, right? And the Lord always provides what you need right when you need it. And right around that time, it was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and that kind of stabilized a bunch of things. Just being with me and my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but you ended up, marrying us. You know what I mean? We're getting ready to go down to the justice of peace. You know what I mean? But we also had this idea of what it was that we wanted for our marriage, right? And I don't think that was it.
Right.
We wanted just a little medium-sized wedding with all our family and all the people that we love there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you gave that to us. You know what I mean? Right there at the church. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was like shotgun too. Boom. You ain't going down to Justice of Peace. You coming here and doing that. And that was like 4 or 5 days before we was actually going to go down there. So I applaud you for that, because you pulled that one off. That was beautiful. That was amazing. So I thank you for that.
Let me ask you this.
Yes,
so
sir.
I met you at a ARC event.
Yep.
And you and your sister and Julius came to church. From that moment, how long was it before we did your wedding?
So when was that event? That event had to be,
was it July, August? Because it was like, I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I bet
it could have been pretty close. It was pretty close to coming up on that year mark.
Okay.
Pretty close to it.
Okay.
For sure. Man, time has been flying though, man. Like it's just, and to me, it's like when time starts to go fast, I really need to take a look at what I'm doing, because to me, it feels like when it's moving fast like that, I need to be doing something else. You know what I mean? So I made a major pivot in what I was doing, because now my faith is stronger. Before I would be scared. Right. Now it's like, I know what I'm here to do. I know what's calling me. I know what's always been calling me. Now I can just go out and do it.
Go do it.
And I've there have been some attacks. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of the craziest things. So it's not like an upright attack when you're getting ready to go in your door and somebody just smack you upside your head. It's other type of things. It could be in the form of relationships. It could
Right.
be in the form of a hardship, financial. Could be your kids. You know what I mean? Not that it's these people are bad people, but
Mhm.
sometimes they're being used. Because somebody don't want you doing what you're supposed to be doing. Somebody don't want you spreading love and
Well, it's
and all
not
that good
somebody,
stuff.
it's only one person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that person is the devil,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And oftentimes people say, well, you got long, pointy hair. No. He influences and takes over uh people's emotion.
Yeah.
See? And so, you know, one thing I didn't share was bankruptcy.
Mm.
And this was when baseball was over. I'm living to save life, and I lose everything.
Hmm.
Well, God will pay you back double.
Oh yeah.
But I had some opposition, but it was my mindset to how I interpreted what was seemingly coming against me.
Yeah.
I continued to embrace it. Yeah, there were moments where I was frustrated, acts of betrayal, this and that, all that. But I then reminded myself, according to the scripture, he says, if the world hates you, know that they hated me first.
Mm.
So are you better than me that everybody gonna be hunky dory, right? Well, no, you're right. So if you're associating yourself with me, just know that everybody ain't gonna be for you, but you still have a mission to accomplish. And so got through the bankruptcy, did all these I've been real estate investor, owner, this and that. I'm telling you, I could never have imagined all this. And this is who Journey is.
Mm.
We'll do socioeconomic stuff. We'll do financial literacy. We'll do debt risk, all these things because all of our experiences,
Yeah.
I want to get back and say, look at what I learned. Let me help you
Yeah.
along the way. Grandmother used to say it like this. She'd say, son, if you can help somebody along the way, then your living is not in vain.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Helping people.
Not helping because of what you can do for me.
Yeah. But
Right.
helping just because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing.
You know what I mean? And to be honest, if you people that help people, they actually get a lot of joy out of helping people. I know when I help people, when I'm down to my last couple of dollars and I see somebody that needs it more than I do, I know I'll get it back, right?
Mhm,
But this
mhm.
person has no way of getting the money that I even have in my pocket, right?
Right.
So if I give it to them, I know I'll give it back. But I feel so much joy by doing that. And even though maybe I'm not going to get it back,
Right.
whatever the case may be, but I just know that this person that I just helped out needed it more than me.
Right.
And giving is probably one of the most satisfying, I can't even really explain the feeling that I get. I almost start crying almost every time. You get emotional, you know what I mean, when you can actually help out someone. And to me, it's like there should be more than that. There should be more of that going on. You know what I mean?
But it's hard to give when you're still selfish.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to give until I became unselfish.
Mhm.
And because oftentimes, and I even war against this now, Carl, and that is that I want to make certain that my giving is authentic.
Yeah.
It's sometimes we'll do something for somebody and have a created expectation that they would say thank you. And then when they don't say thank you, we get all upset.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what I did was not as genuine as I thought it was,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't be all in my feelings.
Yep.
And so that's the type of element that I'm dealing with myself. I mean, I created a curriculum called Journey to Wholeness. And it was really about evaluating myself based upon objective data.
Mm-hmm.
And it took all subjectivity out because objectively, right, these things are what they are. These are truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to look at things in my own life and say, well, why am I upset? What was I expecting?
Mhm.
And why was I expecting anything if it was real?
Yeah.
Right. And so those things help me, not saying that, I'm completely healed, right? Because sometimes, it's like, dude, you could say thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the very least you think, but then God hit me like this. How you deal in your physical relationships here on earth is an indication of how you deal spiritually in your relationship with me. If you're unfaithful, and all these, what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. Oh man. Right? I'm like, oh man, really? Yeah. Oh shoot.
Yeah, because that'll get you too when you do something for somebody. So I'll give you a story. One time I was a driver for my parents, and I'm leaving the methadone clinic, just dropping somebody off, and it was cold, man. It had to be one of the coldest days in history.
Mm.
And these guys are sitting at the bus stop, and they freezing cold. You can just tell they just sitting there, they shivering. There's ice everywhere, and I'm just like, wow, I'm about to go get these guys some coffee, buy them some gloves and some beanies and a scarf and stuff like that. So I went to Walmart and bought a bunch of scarves. It wasn't just for them. I bought like 4 or 5 different of, so I can just hand them out to people that I'm seeing cold throughout the day. I go back, they're gone. The coffee gone, or they're gone. I had the coffee and the scarves and all that, and they disappeared. So I just said, all right, for the rest of the day, I'm just about to drive around, see if I see some people that need it, and I'm gonna give it to him. And the first person I gave it to was this guy sitting outside the liquor store. He was right down the street over here from the office. And he broke down crying. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't really expecting anything, right? So in my head, I'm like, this dude really needed this. This dude is really appreciating what I'm doing for him. So I'm thinking everybody that I'm giving this stuff to is going to react the same way as this guy. And I'm going by the Golden Corral, man. There's this dude out there, man. I come pulling up. I'm Superman, right? I got these gloves and I got this hat and this scarf and it's beautiful. And I'm about to just hand it to him, man. And he go hug me and I gave it to him, man. He just looked at me. He just kept on going on. You know what I mean? I wanted to grab him and be like, man, you're welcome. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
give me my stuff.
yeah, give it here. I'll give it to somebody who needed it. You know what I mean? But, he may have needed it. He may have been just in a different mindset at the time or whatever. You know what I mean? But I definitely can relate to that because I was expecting at least a thank you or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't get nothing but a look. And he just kept going on about his business. Maybe he was expecting money or something. I don't know what it was, but he could have used it a little bit later on. It was still cold. He could have put it on. Maybe he just forgot to say thank you. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that's not what I was doing it for. I was doing it for because people needed it.
Right.
I seen that these people needed it and I had the means to do it at the time. So I did it.
Well, the interesting thing is that when you look for ministry, see, people assume that it's only the preacher that's supposed to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, God allows greater work shall you do.
Mm.
Shall is a word of plurality. And so the same, Christ that saved me, and and it says, go ye therefore. And says, don't forget about the homeless. Don't forget about, when I'm hungry. Don't forget about when I'm incarcerated and all these things, right? Those expectations are placed upon other individuals. And so when you saw what you saw, it moved you and compelled you to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You see, a lot of times people become so jaded, they see the need, but they choose not to act upon the need that they see. Yep. And God wants to use them, but they don't want to be used.
Yeah.
But they be, you know what I mean? So salute to you. Thank you so very much.
Listen, it's something that I want to do more of, right? Because right now, and this is what I talk to people about as well, like people kind of shun money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to do more good, the more money you get, the more good you can do.
Correct.
Right? So when people put a cap on their money and they just say they just want to live modestly, but they want to be able to give, well, if you got money, you'll be able to give more. But anyway, so this is, I try to teach people about this type of stuff because money's going to magnify what you already are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a giving person, the more money you get, it's just going to turn you into a more of a giving person. If you're a selfish person, you're an a-hole, whatever the case may be, money's going to magnify that. So that's what I made my mission to. I made my mission is to change the world in some kind of way, right? Whether that's with the book that I just wrote, trying to uplift people, get people to achieve goals, to take the cap off of their human potential, their abilities, because really we're godlike beings. We can pretty much he gave us dominion. You know what I mean? When we pretty much control everything that's going outside of that, outside of him up here. You know what I mean? He really did give us the choice and the freedom to pretty much make these choices to do right or wrong. It's always a battle for our mind every single day, whether it's good or whether it's evil. And my mission is to just go out and just spread that love, that goodness. You know what I mean? And I wasn't always like that. And I don't even know when that even started. I think that when I was younger, there was something in me that was pulling at me. When I used to be a musician, I used to get on stage and I used to rap about a whole bunch of stuff that I wasn't proud of, right? But then when I got off of the stage, you know, it was a great feeling before I got on the stage, and then when I went on there and gave my message, I felt like I was empty. I felt like I could have went up there and did something better. And it used to bother me. It bothered me for years until I actually figured out what it was. And it was me. It was the message that I was giving people. So when I actually had my first speech, when I went up there and did it, I felt fulfilled. I didn't come down like, was that message good? Because the information that we take in is just as damaging as some of the bad food that we eat. Correct. Right? It's the same process. It's the same. It just affects a different part of your body. So
that's what the Bible says, that many of you shouldn't desire to be teachers, for they shall reap the greater judgment. And when you look at the ability to influence, you look at these recording artists today and how they have influenced a population to turn up, to make it rain, to twerk it and tweak it and drop it, and you know, and all these various different things, and that becomes learned behavior. And I can say this because when I was coming up, my boy was too short. He was the most vulgar out there. And my mindset about women at the time was, you know, and so I know what I'm talking about because I lived it, and and I'm not proud of it, but I was the number one perpetrator, right? And so music has a way of really influencing people to do things, right? And so when I look at some of the clothing and how, and all these things, there's no moral compass today. And all I'm saying at Journey Ministry is that we need to restore morality in the church. Right? It doesn't mean that we're going to be flawless, because we are imperfect human beings that are in love with a perfect human being that gives us the power through his endowment of the Holy Spirit to accomplish his express precepts according to the Bible. But here's the deal. We have to do it his way. And so life, I'm learning, Carl, and that is that you mentioned your book, you mentioned, money and being able to live like no one will live today, so that I can live like I want to live on tomorrow and be a generous giver. And you see, if in fact we were able to recognize that stewardship is about all that God has entrusted to us, your body, right? So what do you put in your body? Are you drinking? Are you smoking? Are you doing these things? Your money. Okay. Can you be faithful over a few dollars, right? Are you a good budget man, or you spend everything out? You know what I mean? And so when we talk about money, in the pursuit of money, the love of money, right, is the root. I mean, we can see it on the national news. It's always driven by money. Just follow the money. Politicians that Senate can't do nothing because of this, because of interest groups, because of the big money. We see a gun problem. Is it the guns or is it the people? Well, people got access to these guns, but you see, obviously, right, we have a problem when, our schools aren't safe, and you see all the depravity of society, but it again, it starts with the church. It starts with the church, and the church has been too silent. The church has, made so many concessions, right? And find ourselves always on public news because we done screwed some prominent pastor over here done did this or this and that. And so people take and say, well, that's the church. And they put everybody in the same barrel.
Yep.
That ain't me.
Gives it a bad name.
I can do my own thing. My bad, all by myself. I don't need, you know what I mean? Don't drop me with them, right?
Yeah.
You know, no, I can do my own thing. And so, you know, that's really what Journey is all about, Carl. It is about life experiences. It's about relevant messages. It's about relevant conversations and being courageous enough to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I done screwed some stuff up. I ain't talking about yesterday. I'm talking about today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, man, it just happens, you know?
It sure enough does.
But we always got to protect ourselves at all times, spiritually speaking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're getting ready to close this thing out, man. We've been doing this for about an hour and 20 minutes. Don't even feel like it, huh?
No, just having a conversation, baby.
Yes, sir. You got any last things that you would like to say?
Hey, I want to
the
thank
people?
you. I just want to thank you for having us today. And I'm hoping that we can come back and participate with this Just Us. And we love what you're doing. We're very supportive of all the things that you do, and really are honored, right, just to be in the studio today and being able to tap into your audience today. And I can tell you this, audience, with last words: if you put a self-imposed ceiling on your potential, notice I said self-imposed, because again, we have solutions within us. We just need to make certain that we understand that as we start making better decisions, as we start reshaping our brain, right? Write your plan out. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, but guess what? I came from Orville, California, first round draft pick, second pick in the nation. What do you think the probability, right, of a black man, of a white person perhaps, but a black man coming out of Orville to be the second pick in the nation? So when you say things, all things are possible through Christ Jesus, and I'm a living recipient of that. So good luck to you. We'll be praying for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, man. It 100% pleasure. I know we've been trying to do this for a little minute. I've been trying to get you in here. You kind of squirrely, man, when it comes to tracking you down. I know you're busy. Your phone been ringing the whole time. I know.
I got a stove on the truck and I got to take it to the sober living house.
Look, hopefully it's still there, because there's some sober living people over here, man, that
oh Lord, right,
need a couple of pieces off of that thing. But listen, from the bottom of my heart, man, I do want to thank you so much, man. You've been nothing but kind to me since I've met you. You've introduced me to a lot of really great people, just providing that environment. Man, I go to church 3 times a week now, man.
Praise the Lord.
Before that, I wasn't even going. I wasn't even going. I go 3. That's how you change me. Yeah. You know, so I really appreciate you. I really appreciate the family at Journey. I appreciate your lovely wife, Cindy Brown, as well. Everybody that attends. And man, thank you guys.
Hey, anybody in Sacramento, come on out, 4147, suite number 2, 10 a.m. to 11:15. 10 a.m. to 11:15. Pastor going to get up to preach about 10:45, 11:15, 11:10. We gone.
Gone.
So, gone.
Just like we are right now. Thank you guys so much for joining us and tuning in. And we'll see you guys next time. Love each and every one of you.
Peace. Carl, you're not going to believe this. So, Michael posted, my brother-in-law posted this.
At some point, being a human being catches up to us, and the 6 basic fears will creep up out of nowhere and rock our world. The one I want to speak to you about today is one of the main fears: the loss of love or the loss of a loved one. At some point in our life, we will experience heartbreak and lose people we love. But one thing to understand is that we have a choice to respond however we want. Despite how TV shows us how to act, despite how the music we listen to tell us how to deal with it, and despite how everyone else around us cope, at the end of the day, we have a choice. The ability to make decisions is one of the greatest freedoms we have
to
as
the right,
human beings,
and then to the right
that
again.
separates us from any other species
You gotta
on earth.
jiggle it a little bit.
When God
Yeah, it's
made
weird.
us, He wanted us to understand that we're far more capable of what we've been showing every day. Understand that we will be tested in every single way. and understand that no matter how tall the mountain or how deep the hole, we can and we will overcome as long as you make the decision to overcome. And the faith that no matter the opponent, no matter the obstacle, and no matter how long the road, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. There are no coincidences, and everything happens for a reason. It's up to you to find out what that reason is. There's a fine line between tears of joy and tears of pain. And once we realize that we're in control of both, we can use it to better ourselves, and then we can change the world. The choice is yours. I don't know who needs to hear this, but someone does.
Let me hold you one last time, one last time. Give me one more chance, one last time, one last time.
When you feel like giving up, when you feel you're not strong enough. Wow. When you feel like you're down and out, just give it all you got. Last time. When you feel like you're losing hope, and you feel like you're losing faith, there's always a brighter day. Get up and give it. I do want to thank everybody for joining. My name is Carl Thornton. I'm the host of Is This Thing On? And our special guest today was Kevin Brown. Thank you guys. I hope you guys tune in to episode number 4. Peace.